Hello, and welcome to Unity Church on the Mountain, on the Road. Today, we are at Lake Guntersville, Alabama. And please join me as we affirm our opening statement. There is only one presence and one power in my life and the universe, God. I have a small lantern that is lit to represent the Christ within, the light that is always burning and never goes out. And today I'd like to talk about our superpowers. That's right, our superpowers. Like the Justice League, we have superpowers, and we all have them. They're always active within us. We just have to put them to use. We all have them because we are all created in the image of God. We all have that Christ within us. And within Christ are these abilities that I'm calling superpowers. Charles Fillmore called them the 12 powers or the 12 faculties. Faculty just means ability in this case, so the 12 abilities. These 12 abilities are in the Christ, and the Christ is in us. So the abilities are also in us. And since they are principal, they are active all of the time. Whether we know they're active or not, they are being used in our life, even if we don't know it's going on. So what are they like? So I've already said they're principle. They exist in the absolute as ideas in the mind of God. Remember, we talked about divine mind, divine idea, and their expressions. That is divine order. Mind, idea, and the expression. Last week we talked mostly about the expression end of the Holy Spirit, the Comforter. So we know a little bit about what they are, but how is that divine order at work? Order is one of the superpowers that we all have. And everything is in divine order. Everything is either the mind, ideas in the mind, or their expressions. You've heard me say that before. And everything is in divine order. It's not an accident that I am here and recording this message for you. And it's not an accident that you are there and watching this message. It is divine order. But if everything is in divine order, then why is there suffering? Why are there things such as COVID-19? Why do we do things that we have regrets about? Say mean and hurtful things. Say mean and hurtful things to ourselves even. And the answer is another one of our superpowers. We have will. We have free will. And it is given to us through that same divine order. It's part of the Christ. Christ is in us. And so we have free will. We get to choose. We choose whether we follow the divine order with a capital O. And it is written on our heart. And we know, we can tell the difference when we're listening to our heart or whether we're listening to our sense consciousness. Sometimes I call it the ego. But if we begin to observe ourselves, we can always know whether or not that guidance is coming from Spirit through our heart, or whether it's coming from our own mind, from our sense consciousness, or our ego. So we can see divine order acting on the level of Christ consciousness when we follow that what's written in our heart. And we can also see order as we ignore it. Exercise our will. In this case, it would be will with a lowercase w. If we choose to follow the guidance of our sense consciousness, which quite often leads us into error thought and more suffering, and at the very least, it is unfulfilling. You have probably all felt a longing within you for something more. It doesn't matter what you buy. It doesn't matter who you date. It doesn't matter. There is nothing in this outside world that will fulfill that longing. But if we surrender our will with a little w and follow will with a big W into that divine order, we listen to what's written in our heart and we lift ourselves out of that error thinking. And when we seek first the kingdom, all else is given to us. So just using these two powers, order and will, just using these two abilities, I've demonstrated something that I hope we can all find in our own life, that these powers, these abilities operate on at least two levels. What I'm calling a capital letter order or a capital letter will is at one level, the level of Christ consciousness. And then with a smaller case O or a smaller case W, we have order and will operating at the level of sense consciousness. But most importantly, how can we put these superpowers into use in our life? How can we use these abilities and lift them from the sense consciousness ability to the super consciousness or Christ consciousness ability? The answer is simple, and you may have heard me say it before. But when we look out into the world, we have a choice. Remember that will, free will. We get to choose how we see the things that we encounter. We encounter people every day, most likely. Or we encounter trees, water. And these things can be seen in different ways. If I had a bad experience when I was young and I saw the water behind me, it could remind me of that bad experience. Perhaps I was dunked under the water and I nearly drowned. Perhaps. So I could see that water as being a threat or danger. Or I could see that water as being calm, soothing, a reservoir of peace. I can look at the people around me. I can see the things that they do. And I can use another one of my superpowers. I can use it incorrectly as judgment and look at the things that they're doing and judge whether that's good or whether that's bad. But if I properly take that judgment as discernment, I can turn that sight, that vision within myself, and I can look at my own behavior, at my own consciousness, and I'll just about guarantee that if you look, that you will see whatever judgment you were holding on that other right here at home with yourself. I've tried it. It works every time. So as we begin to see the people around us as the divine beings that they are, because we are all created in that image, the same image that is the Christ. It doesn't matter who we are. It doesn't matter when. We are all children of Source, children of God. When we can see past whatever it is on the outside and see to the inside of others and see their divinity, that activates another one of our superpowers. Love, with a capital L. And we begin to attract more of that same to us. And it becomes a positive cycle that is spiraling us up. We get more of this love. We are able to share more as we see that divinity in everyone around us. And then we get more. And the cycle repeats itself. And we're on the escalator. Because you see, as I stand here talking to you and you listen to me, we are operating at the level of an illumined mind. Because you see, you're listening to me trying to bring these ideas of truth to you. I can talk about them. You can read about them. And all we can ever get to is that illumined mind. That's the level where we start. When our spiritual journey first begins, we've had some light that has been shined into us, and we can see that there is something. There is something. And we learn about it. We learn about truth. We learn about this knowledge. But then as we practice this seeing the divinity, and we begin to get in this upward cycle, something begins to happen. And it is beyond our thought processes that we normally think about, the intellectual learning about something. And we begin to experience an awakened heart where we know something. It's no longer about something. It is a knowledge, a direct knowledge of something. It doesn't take words. The heart speaks without language, without comparison. There is no judgment. It is a knowing, an experience. Think about the process of meeting a person. First, someone tells you about this person. So that key word is about. You're finding out about this person. You may go on Facebook and look at who they're friends with and look at some pictures of them and even go to their about page and find out about this person. But do you know this person? No. You know about the person. You know the things that your friend told you. You know what you've read about them, what you've seen about them, but you don't know that person. And then one day your friend introduces you face to face. And now the knowledge begins. You begin to know this person. You have this direct experience. And the longer you spend in this knowing, the longer we spend, the greater we know. And this same thing applies to the presence of God within us. We can be told about this presence. We can read about this presence. And it doesn't matter how many books we read or how many times you listen to me, until we begin to practice these teachings. We don't even have to believe they're true. But if we begin to practice, we begin to know. Instead of knowing about, we actually begin to have this experience, and it begins to multiply and accelerate. The change that comes over our lives is something we should all experience, because that's the only way we're going to know it. So we've moved into the awakening heart by practicing seeing the divinity in everyone around us, regardless of what their behavior is. They may be spitting out some spiteful things, but if we can get past that that's happening on the outside and move to what we know is on the inside of them, because we know it's on the inside of us, and see that Christ within, feel the change that comes over yourself. I'm going to tell a small story. I had just learned about what James Twyman teaches in a book called The Moses Code. There's a movie. I'll put a link to it in the newsletter because I believe it's still on YouTube. You can watch it for free on YouTube. It's called The Moses Code. And a short summary of that is, Moses was given a name. He says, "Who shall I tell the Israelites in Egypt sent me? Who shall I tell them sent me?" And God answers him and says, "I am that I am sent. Tell them that the I am that I am sent you." That's sort of a hard thing to wrap my mind around. I am that I am. But if you put a comma after that, I am that I am, it begins to make more sense. So when I look out there and I encounter an individual or even a rock, I am that. I am that rock. And then the universe whispers back, I am. I am that person that I'm seeing out there. I am. When I first discovered this, I was doing it all the time. In fact, it's something I need to bring back and begin doing again because it feels so good. But early on, I was obsessed with it. And so I was doing it mentally now, so no one else was hearing what I was doing. And I was at one of our church members' 90th birthday party. Joyce had just turned 90. And I came in a little late because I had trouble finding the building. And they sat me right across from her at the table. And I was in the middle of practicing the I am that I am and seeing that oneness, because that's what it is. When I look out there and I say that I am that, that's an expression of our oneness, that we are all a part of God. And so I was looking over there at Joyce because she was right across from me. And her nephew had just come up behind her. And had touched her shoulder and bent down to whisper to her. And I couldn't hear what they were saying. But at just that moment, I was saying inwardly to myself, I am that. I am. And as I said that, I am, I felt a wave hit me in the chest. It felt like the bass when you're at a concert and you hear that bass drum hit and the bass guitar at the same time, and it's like a thumping that just hits me. And it was love. That love that he was sharing with his aunt. And the love that she was sharing back to him. That was what I said, I am that. And I felt that love hit me. I've never felt any emotion from another person as strongly as I did in that moment. I'll never forget it because it was just that strong of an experience. So as we go about our lives, as we move through life and we have experiences day to day, and when we become aware and we remember to see that person as the divine child of God that they are, see the Christ within that person. And as we do this, each time we do it, it becomes easier because we get this love back and it vibrates us at a higher energy level. And as we share it again out by seeing that divinity in others, remember it's that repeating cycle. We lift ourselves from an illumined mind where we only know about these things into an awakened heart. And it just explodes out into the universe. And we continue to grow in this way, and one day we don't have to have words anymore. One day we experience the realized soul, where there's not even a word that comes between the expression from mind, idea, through the Comforter, and right through ourselves and back into the world. Not even a thought is in between us, and we are. We are that love. We are a superpower. So I wanted to speak about how we can see the Christ using these superpowers. Jesus was an expression of the Christ. He reached that idealized soul, that realized soul, and demonstrated it for every one of us so that we could find it too. Remember, he tells us that even greater things we will do. So when he begins his ministry, Jesus goes to John the Baptist. John the Baptist, he represents, or he is a symbol for, that illumined mind, where we know about truth. We know about these things. We know about the presence of God within us. And if you'll remember, if you look in John the Gospel of John, and then there's John the Baptist. So John the Baptist tells Jesus that that he will be becoming lesser so that Jesus can become more. So what he's saying there in symbol is that our illumined mind will become less so that the Christ within us can become more. And then John baptizes Jesus, and he goes out into the desert to be tempted. Well, we know we don't have to go out in the desert to be tempted. There's plenty of that right here in these shoes. So we will encounter these temptations. And in that process, how do we respond? How do we react? Do we react in judgment? Or do we discern? Do we see with our wisdom, with a capital W, the Christ that is within this situation, within this person, within this situation? How do we choose to see it? Is it a way that's going to elevate us? Or is it going to be in a way that holds us down? And as we begin to overcome these temptations and see them with a healthy eye, look back on YouTube, there's a talk about healthy eye. When we see them with a healthy eye, we get this light that comes through us from Spirit and radiates out into the world. So when Jesus returns from the desert, having overcome these temptations, what does he do next? He sees some fishermen, and he begins to collect his disciples. Each disciple that Jesus collects for his ministry corresponds to one of our superpowers. There are 12 disciples, 12 abilities within us that we inherit through the Christ. I'm not going to go over all the 12 today, but we've seen a few of them. We've seen order, we've seen will, we've seen love, and without even mentioning it, we've seen imagination at work. Because as we see the Christ in someone, we are picturing it with our inner vision, and that is our superpower of imagination. And I believe that, like me, as you begin to explore these powers within you and see them at work in your life, you're going to find that very rarely is there only one ability at work. They all seem to work together to lift us up, so that God can work through us and lift up our community, our nation, our world, and our whole universe. So, I will have more on our superpowers in talks to come. But right now, I'd like to sing a song for you. It begins to be a meditation. It begins to be a sort of a prayer. Let it soothe you. Play it back again if it really helps. And I hope it does. That's the only reason to do it, is for it to help. This song came to me as I was beginning to think about these stages that we all go through. And don't think that these stages only happen once. We begin with the illumined mind, and then we get glimpses of the awakened heart. But then we don't always stay there. And then when we finally become realized soul, we don't stay there. We keep falling back and moving forward and back and forth. But it becomes easier and easier. Our vibrations are being raised, and every time our vibrations are raised, it becomes easier to find that awakened heart. And it becomes easier to be that realized soul. So the song is called The Awakened Heart. The awakened heart, I am that I am. You, the awakened heart, I am that I am. I am that, I am that, I I am that. I am that. I am that. I am. I am that. I am that. I am that. I am. I am that. I am that. I am that. I am. We are that. You are that. Say it. I am that. I am. And now we'll close with our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love. The power of God protects us. I am the power. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you.